From the KDLM studios in Detroit Lakes, it's Hodge Podge with Carol McCarthy, presented by Partnership for Health and now airing on TV3.
Good morning and welcome to Hodge Podge, this 22nd day of February 2019. And today on Hodge Podge, we've got a guest from the Becker County Food Pantry, the director of Becker County Food Pantry, Brad Carlson. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Carol.
March is right around the corner, actually begins next Friday, a week from today. And actually on Monday already, you are starting the annual March Food Drive.
Yes, we are. March is Minnesota's Food Share Month, although it starts a little bit early. It can start next Monday. And Becker County is again participating in this March campaign, which is coordinated by Hunger Solutions of Minnesota.
All right, and so this is the big food drive of the year. We have some smaller ones throughout the year. You know, we have the Canadian Pacific. You had some people, donate to the food pantry, but this is the one that's devoted to with the Minnesota share and nearly 300 food shelves participating across the state.
Right. All food and donations, cash donations collected in the month go towards an incentive award from the Greater Minneapolis Community Connections. Used to be the Council of Churches, now it's Community Connections. With more than 300 food shelves in the state eligible to compete in this campaign, the more money and food that we raise, the more that we are eligible to receive through these incentive grants.
All right. So starting on Monday, so that's this Monday, you can donate to the local food shelf, and that puts us in the running for more that is given to our local food shelf from the statewide pot, so to speak. And last year, I guess they raised about just over $8 million or just over 5.5 pounds of food collected. 5.5 million pounds of food collected, looking at the statistics online. But Brad, before we get into more details about this, let's talk a little bit about the service that's provided through Becker County Food Pantry and how it's going. I know we had the federal government shut down, and we heard reports all across the country about federal workers utilizing area food shelves, but one of the things also that was affected was the food stamp program, where people received their portion of food stamps ahead of time for March because they didn't know for February, so they didn't know. So that is causing some busy times at the food shelf now.
We have really been getting hit hard this month. So far this month, we've had 327 families come in, which equals out to 1,176 individuals. We've already gone through 31,277 pounds of food, just under 16 tons of food that we've gone through just this month. We don't know everything that's going on. We know that it's been cold,
right,
and snowy, and so people are coming on out right now to get what they can receive.
All right. And how does that relate to like usual months as far as traffic goes at the food shelf?
I would say for the month of February, we are up. Because of the weather in January, we were closed a couple of days. When the school district is closed, we also close. Because I don't want my volunteers out, and I don't want anybody else out endangering themselves. And so I think we're probably just seeing the uptick of people realizing that the cupboards are bare.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the Becker County Food Pantry, of course, is located on Rossman Avenue here in Detroit Lakes. And Brad, what is it that people receive when they go to the food shelf? What's a typical visit to the food shelf entail?
When a person comes to the food shelf, depending on their family size, right now we are averaging about 29 pounds of food per person. We pretty much guarantee them eggs, milk, onions, carrots, cheese, apples and oranges. They'll get different meat products. We'll give them what bread we have, and then we also provide them with a variety of different canned items of what we presume to be the staples: corn, beans, and different, or cereal and things like that. So again, averaging around 29 pounds per person, and it depends on the family size.
Okay. All right. So there is a great need for people to contribute, because that's how you get your food. I mean, you have some of the grocery stores that do contribute a little bit, and but this is the majority of what you get is from donations.
Yes, it is. Last year in our donations for the March campaign, we received nearly 24,000 pounds of donated food. We go through that in less than 2 weeks. We received just over $104,000 in donations in the March campaign last year. That will hold us for under 4.5 months, based on what we purchase locally or through the North Country Food Bank.
All right. And what is the importance of people? It's important to contribute or to give food, non-perishable food items, but the additional, value in donating cash is that you, as a director of the food pantry, or your volunteers can purchase items at a better rate.
And we are able to buy things at a better rate. When you go down to the store and you buy that that jar of peanut butter, which is on sale for $1.50, which is a great price, we're paying 14 cents through the North Country Food Bank. Right now, we are getting apples and oranges through the North Country Food Bank at 8 cents a pound. You're not going to see that locally. And so for you to purchase things locally, you're spending a lot more than what we can buy things for. And if we are going to buy things locally, we're going to buy it by the pallet. And so we'll get a far better price that way as well.
All right. So if you think about it and you want to pick up a few items, you're still, you still can do that. That's greatly needed. But your dollar goes a little bit farther if you would like to donate cash this month, beginning Monday. And the food drive goes through April 7th. So we got a little cushion on each side of March, too, for people that want to donate.
Yes, we do. And we appreciate that little extra cushion for that check that was delayed, or somebody who's heading south who wants to contribute early. We're willing to start taking the money.
Okay, so it's the March food drive starting on Monday. Brad Carlson from Becker County Food Pantry is in the studio with me this morning. And of course, another way to donate too is to drop items off or a check off at your area church, because I know some of them are doing some fundraising and they will know where to get that to.
The area churches are very, very good to us in taking care of us and providing for us. I know that a number of churches will be doing different things. In fact, a number of different organizations already have things in the works. Next Sunday, not this coming Sunday, but Sunday, March 3rd, the Knights of Columbus are dedicating their pancake breakfast just as a free will offering to the food pantry. Menards is going to be doing a collection for the entire month of March. We also know that various youth groups are going to be doing little coin or penny collections for the food pantry. And so anything or anywhere that you are willing to contribute, we're more than happy to receive what you can give us.
All right. Yes. So your contributions matter, whether you give any time, but they are mattering more through the month of March if people want to donate a greater value throughout the month of March. Any money raised between February 25th and April 7th. So be generous.
And we appreciate everything that everybody does for us. It's because of this community that we're able to offer this service to the people of Becker County.
Right. Brad Carlson from Becker County Food Pantry, and I appreciate you coming in and sharing this information with us. And we'll check in throughout March and see how you're doing.
Thank you, Carol.
All right, Brad, thanks so much. Brad Carlson from Becker County Food Pantry. The March food drive begins Monday here across the state of Minnesota, February 25th. We're going to take a break and be back with more, looking at events going on throughout the weekend next on Hodge Podge.
Now, back to Hodge Podge with Carol McCarthy on KDLM Detroit Lakes.
Welcome back to Hodge Podge, this 15th day of February 2019. Back in the studio with Brent Alcott from Pelican River Watershed District. And good morning, Brent.
Good morning.
Happy February.
Yes, it's been an interesting one.
Polar kind of feel to it. Polar Fest going on right now. Brent, of course, works with Pelican River Watershed District, local agency that deals with water quality. Brent, one of the first questions I have for you deals with all the snow, this glorious snow that we've got, these high banks and drifts in our area, on our roofs. How is that going to affect water quality, if at all, when it all melts?
Sure. Well, local weather patterns always are going to change kind of how water quality is, and it's really going to make an impact when it starts melting. The big question is how fast it melts. Mm-hmm. I know a couple of years ago we had some pretty quick melting days, and it caused quite a bit of runoff.
Right. So with that mixed with, I know there's always some concern about, the salt used on roads and the runoff, and, does that affect our water quality ultimately?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things that I'll kind of monitor this spring as the snow starts to melt and the streams break up. One of them is chlorides. So we'll kind of monitor those along the Pelican River and some of the storm sewer outlets. In certain concentrations, that can be toxic to fish and aquatic life. So we'll kind of make sure that whatever's coming downstream is at a decent level. And if we do have some high concentrations, we'll kind of try to figure out where they're coming from and if there's any way that we can mitigate or help not let that get into to our lakes and rivers. The other thing that I'll watch is flooding. We do have a ditch system, so we have 4 ditches that we monitor that have to maintain public drainage there. So we'll keep an eye on those and make sure that those are flowing, and if there's any blocked culverts or anything from runoff, we'll contact the appropriate people. The last thing that is a big issue with large amounts of runoff and big snow is stream bank erosion. Okay. When you get high flows coming through river systems, starts carving away at the outer banks, or can resuspend some of those fine sediments that have built up on the river bottom over the winter time. So that's something else we'll keep an eye on.
So do we have to worry about what are they called, the ice coming up on the shore?
Oh, our ice pushes. Typically we get the worst ice push when we don't have much snow. Yeah. The ice gets really thick and it's a lot of expansion, and it pushes on those shorelines around the lake. We had a pretty good winter this year as far as snow cover goes, so I haven't seen any real big ice pushes. I know I saw some pushing up around like the city beach area, which is pretty common, but that's just all sand, so that can just get raked back down. But I haven't seen anything around the lake that would be as bad as we had a couple of years ago.
All right, to Brent Alcott from Pelican River Watershed District in the studio with me this morning, mid-February, talking about how some of this winter snow, if we get any more, it's in the forecast, of course. We're not through February yet, and we've got March ahead.
Middle of February, and we have quite a bit already.
Right. So that may affect some of our water quality, but that's what Pelican River Watershed District does, is monitor the water quality and, keep that in tow, do what we need to do. Some of the other things that you've been working on in the community, I know that Detroit Lakes will soon approve a shoreland ordinance. I don't know if they've approved a final one yet, but I know that it was in the making.
I don't know the specifics of the status that it's at. I know the Ordinance Review Committee, which the Watershed District serves on, kind of finished up our discussions on it, and then it was going to get turned over to the DNR, who ultimately has the final say of if it meets their standards or not.
Right. Well, I know that Pelican River Watershed District is always among discussion items and in the list of conditions in a conditional use permit to build and stuff, because your agency, deals with the water quality issues.
Yeah, so new developments or redevelopment have to meet certain stormwater standards just to make sure that we're capturing the nutrients where they are and keeping them on the landscape, trying to infiltrate them into the soils as quick as we can to limit the amount of runoff and pollution. So, yeah, we do work close with the city on that with some of these building projects, yeah.
We've got a lot of building projects underway, and I know there's a big one coming up on Washington Avenue with an apartment building facility. I think it's a 4-story.
Four-story, I believe it's, commercial on the bottom and then residential on the upper ones. And we were very much involved with the stormwater planning on that one. That was a pretty challenging site. It's pretty flat, and there's not a lot of separation from groundwater to really let water soak in. So we had to use some innovative ideas to help scrub some of that phosphorus out from the stormwater runoff before entering into our storm sewers.
Okay, and then of course the county and the city, Becker County and Detroit Lake City, will be looking at redoing Westlake Drive in the near future. I know they're working on Westlake Drive from Legion Road to County Highway 6.
Yep.
So there's obviously a lot of work to be done there.
I believe that one's slated for 2020, and we're going to hopefully help the city with a grant application to help offset some of the costs of the stormwater practices in that area. That's going to be another challenging site. It's a long stretch there, and there's not a whole lot of space for stormwater management. So we might actually have to put some underground structures and systems in to help infiltrate the water there.
Right. So you say what is needed, and then the engineers come in and submit a plan, and then your agency.
Yep. So we have our water quality standards that everybody needs to meet if a certain project meets our thresholds, and then the engineers kind of use professional judgment to kind of figure out what the best way is. And on those challenging ones, we're pretty involved in that too. We attend a lot of these training seminars and a lot of this. The innovative stormwater practices that we kind of try to figure if there's a way that we can use some of these new technologies to help improve our water quality.
All right, Brent Alcott from Pelican River Watershed District in the studio with me this morning, talking about some of the things Pelican River Watershed District is involved in within our community and the development and just monitoring water quality of our area lakes, and have been doing a great job. You also have a lot of information on your website at prwd.org, including, weather statistics, ice in, ice out dates, and all the projects that you are working on.
Yeah, and we have some of our special projects on there, and then I should be uploading our water quality results from last year, just finishing up with the reports on some of those lake water quality reports.
Right.
Those will be up shortly.
So what do you do in the wintertime?
A lot of report writing.
Grant writing, researching grants.
Researching grants, some training sessions. Okay. And then now is about the time that we start planning for the summer operations.
Right.
So.
Okay. And of course, you're always looking for interns. In the summer, you have a couple intern positions that you fill every summer. Yeah,
so we have 2 seasonal monitoring interns that we hire each year, and we're starting to look for applicants on those again as well. So what I was saying before of all those water quality samples that we take, unfortunately, I'm not the one that gets to do all of that. I do sometimes, but we do hire those 2 interns to go out on our lakes and streams, collect water quality samples, work on some special projects that we have going on as well.
Okay. All right. And how do people apply for those? If parents are listening or students, who probably are in class or sleeping in right now.
Yeah. So I have the job posting listed on our website.
Okay.
And what we're looking for is a college student that is in a natural resources or some sort of related field that will be going back to school again next year.
Okay.
And this internship does qualify for college credit. And, we go out of our way to try to help students get lined up with the proper internship classes. We can write recommendations for them as well to get college credit for their hard work.
Okay. Brent Alcott from Pelican River Watershed District in the studio with me this morning. Some of the other things that you are involved in too, of course, you attend a lot of shows and things that go on. Well, I think a lot of them are coming up in February and March, just conventions or showcases. You have the boat show, you have a winter showcase. I think there's probably a home show coming up, the Lake Area Builders Association home show. You guys
and I think Carl Koenig, the AIS coordinator, I think he'll have a booth set up there at the boat show and maybe the home show as well. Mm-hmm. This year we're focusing on education, especially with our younger residents, with our students. So we help out with Steve Fode's chemistry class, the Water Watch program, where we take 9th graders out to Sucker Creek and teach them a little bit about water quality and what are some of those drivers that can impact or change water quality. And then they have an invertebrate section there too. So they sample some bugs, and different species of bugs are more sensitive to changes in water quality and water temperature. So they can kind of get an idea of the biological integrity of what the river system is there.
Right. And I know that, I don't know if you and both Tara and you have participated in, they have kind of a mock a scenario where they invite different entities come in.
I think we're going to call it the Sucker Creek Forum. It's essentially like a mock city council meeting or planning commission meeting, answering a hypothetical question of, should we have somebody come in and put a development in the Sucker Creek area? So then people speak for or against, and then after the students go out there and look at the river and hear the scientists talk about what impacts can happen to a river with development, then they vote to make a decision if it should be developed or not.
Right, which I find is interesting because that's kind of what, when you cover meetings, these local meetings, whether it be county or city level, that's what happens. It's pretty realistic. So.
Well, and Sucker Creek was platted out to be developed, so it's not that far off where something like that was close to happening out there.
Yeah, but what a great thing for students to hear and actually see all that's involved in development.
Yeah, well, and it's really interesting for the students to get out and get hands-on. You can kind of see like the light bulb go off in their head of when they're actually looking or standing in the river and you're talking about something, it draws the connection a lot stronger than if you would just be in the classroom.
Right. Brent Alcott from Pelican River Watershed District, my guest this morning on Hodge Podge. Brent, also wanted to talk to you. Okay, so we're in the midst of Polar Fest and we've got lots of ice, so people, they harvested some of the ice out from the lake. As a scientist, a biologist of sort, or you're a biologist by trade. Do you see like the quality of the ice? I mean, is that something that kind of tells you what the water quality is in Detroit Lake?
When the ice freezes up, it's at a point in the year where there's very limited algal growth. Right. So typically our ice is always going to be, especially on a larger lake. Once you get on like a smaller or a shallow lake, you might have some remnant algae or some vegetation that's in there. But for large lakes, we typically have pretty clear ice on all of our lakes up here going into fall and early winter.
Right. And the fact that this year they were the folks that were harvesting the ice were commenting about there were more weeds in the ice this year.
Yeah, so I do remember last year late there was a strong south wind that blew a lot of vegetation kind of up into the shallows there along the north side of Little Detroit. So I would expect that's could be what they're seeing. And I'm not sure how far out they harvested ice last year compared to this year. I know it was a little bit near shore, and I'm not sure how much plant growth was there. Okay.
Right. So if you're out and about and you walk by King Isbet's Throne, you'll see the weeds in the ice, and that's been harvested. It's a local harvest here in Detroit Lakes, the ice. But it's always kind of good to find the science behind the ice, or just maybe, be a scientist yourself and look at the clarity of the ice. And, Hans was telling me something about ice, and when it's sunny outside, even when it's brutally cold, if the sun shines on the ice, the ultraviolet rays affect the what is it called? The consistency of the ice.
Really?
So it just it gets really kind of almost kind of squishy.
Interesting.
Squishy. That's a bad word, but yeah.
Sure, so it starts to soften up a little.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. Even on the brutally cold days, it's the sun.
Sure.
And the ice. So anyway, little known fact, I guess.
That's cool.
But Brent Alcott, anything else to add this morning before we wrap up?
Just a reminder, when people are starting to plan their spring projects, if they're doing any work along shorelines, make sure to give me a call just to make sure that we can either meet out on site and that we kind of know what the regulations are with both the Watershed District, the Minnesota DNR, and any other local agencies. Sometimes it gets confusing, so that's what I'm here for. Happy to work with people to make sure that we're implementing projects or improving our lake shore and maintaining our good water quality.
That's good to know. And as we head into the construction season, which is right around the corner.
It will come. It'll come sooner than you think.
I think the groundhog said construction season is right around the corner. Brent, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Brent Alcott from Pelican River Watershed District. And that is going to wrap up Hodge Podge for this week as we head through mid-February and Polar Fest events continue throughout the weekend. I'm Carol McCarthy, KDLM.